Alright, what's up guys? My name is Zach, and today I am driving quite the mouthful. A 1987 Oldsmobile Delta 88 Royale Brougham. Up front is a 3.8 liter V6, and down below is a 4-speed automatic transmission. Now, I am super excited to be driving this Delta 88 because I've never driven one before, and it's been fun to sort of dig into Oldsmobile's past. There is a lot of importance around this car as well. This has the 3.8 liter that was the predecessor to the 3800 that we know and love from Buick and GM, as well as it's just a cool car that you don't really see much of anymore, and so I'm excited to dive into it with you today. But if you would like to submit your own vehicle, you can head on over to my website, zachpradel.com/submit. It's a quick and easy submission form. It takes under a minute to fill out. I come out to you, and you would get a video of your vehicle, just like the one you're watching now of this Delta 88. But let's get back to that 3.8 liter V6 under the hood. Well, it's known as the red dot engine, quite simply because the little red logo on top of the engine. That's literally why this is called the red dot engine. But like I mentioned in the intro, this is the predecessor to the 3800. So this isn't officially the 3800, but it was sort of the blueprint and the genesis of what that engine would later become. Now, these engines weren't amazing right off the bat. They actually ended up later adding a balance shaft, which took out a lot of the vibration and helped with the longevity. But that's not to say that this engine was unreliable. It's actually still a pretty solid engine, very plain and straightforward. Doesn't make all the horsepower in the world, but it definitely makes enough to be happy. Now, like I said, paired to it is a 4-speed automatic transmission. It's fine, it's shifting, it's doing the job. I'm not really too worried about it. It is what it is. And last but not least, this is front-wheel drive. However, this also gets the FE3 suspension package, which was a beefier suspension package, along with rear air ride, which is definitely a very nice feature to have. However, most of them now here in 2023 end up failing, so it's not really much benefit here today, but definitely a cool feature to have way back when. So how does it feel to drive an Oldsmobile Delta 88 Royale Brougham? Well, it's a very comfortable experience. However, the suspension is a little bit harder because it is that sportier, beefy suspension with the FE3 package, which was a rare package. So odds are if you had a Delta 88 in this era, yours probably rode a lot better unless you had the same suspension package. And that's not to say that it rides bad. It's just noticeably stiffer. It feels a lot more like a Chevy product than a Buick or Cadillac product, I guess, in that middle ground. However, steering is nice and light. Visibility is wonderful. I love 80s cars for that. No rollover protection, but fantastic visibility. And the seats are really comfortable, making it a comfortable experience. It's just a little bit harder than it normally would be. With that stuff out of the way, let's talk about the interior. Well, in front of me, I have a digital dashboard. I love digital dashboards with my whole entire heart, and this car has a wonderful one. Off to the left is the coolant temperature, off to the right is the fuel, and in the center is my speedometer. What's funny is that they still highlight 55 miles an hour, and it's just smaller. I love that. On the steering wheel, all I have is the horn. That's it. And it is a very, very thin steering wheel. This feels almost 1970s, if I do say so myself. So Oldsmobile sticking with that name of offering the old stuff. Off to the left, I have my headlight switches and gauge dimmer switches, as well as a climate vent. And moving out of the door, I have a Royale Brougham badge, my manual mirrors, latch get in and out, power locks, and then moving down we have our power windows. So definitely nice features to see here in the Olds, but also a lot going on over here on the door card. Moving into the center, we do have an unleaded fuel only badge. We have our warning lights, as well as this little nucleus logo. I don't know what the heck this is, but I love it. Very, very retro, and I think it looks fantastic. And off to the right, we also have an 88 badge. So again, reminding you of what the heck you're driving. Down below, we have our temperature and climate options. This will go up to 90 degrees. So if you really want to roast the demons out of your car, a good way to do it is in a Delta 88. Then we have the very classic GM radio down below. I've seen this in so many different J-bodies, and the Cimarron, which is a J-body, but still. Eldorados, Fleetwoods, all from this era had something like this, which I find to be really, really funny. Then we do have a pull-out ashtray and a 12-volt outlet / cigarette lighter. And then we don't have any proper center console. The owner has added an aftermarket one, of which pretty much does hold the big freaking bottle, but it is not factory, so I can't give the Delta 88 a proper factory pass, but still cool to see that there were options back in the day. The seats are very, very plush and very comfortable. This is very old GM to me, and I love that. I think in this era, GM was at the top of their game when it came to seats. I think it really started in the late 70s with like the Barrett's Eldorado, and it really carried up through the 90s, and that's really, really nice to see. However, speaking of seats, we do have back seats, so let's go do a back seat review. All right, so we're in the back of the 1987 Oldsmobile Delta 88 Royal Brougham, and a couple of things to note. First of all, the buttons from the front seat carry on back here. I love this sort of 80s feel. 80s into the 90s, some cars had buttons in the seats, and even back in the 70s as well, again with the Barretts. But I just love these. They're very, very comfortable, and even though this isn't the full-size Olds at the time, it actually has a good amount of space. I also love that the center armrest for the front has this Royal Brougham badge on it. I get an ashtray down here. I get the Royal Brougham badge over my right shoulder as well, or I guess my right elbow. And overall, it's really, really nice back here. It's kind of sitting very upright. I feel like I'm sitting in a school chair, at least in terms of angle, but in terms of comfort, I am miles and miles away from any bench seat or church pew. So love that. Let's hop out. We'll take a quick look at the trunk and cargo space, and then we'll talk about the looks. All right, so this is an older GM, so say it with me. Square for the ignition, circle for the trunk. I'm gonna make that into a children's rhyme one day. Also, pull that up to the side. A lot of GMs did that in the era, especially Cadillacs. Would help if I put the key in the right way. Pull it up like that, and as you can see, a wonderful, wonderful trunk space in the Delta 88. GMs, a lot of vehicles of this era, of this segment, had wonderful trunks, and the Delta 88 is absolutely no different than any of those. Love to see that. Now we gotta talk about the looks, and I like the look of the Delta 88. I don't think it's anything like super special, but you could tell that they were still very much in their boxy era. But then you look at the LeSabre of the same exact year, and it does look decently different, and so it's fun to sort of see what GM was doing in this time, and the Delta 88 was most certainly holding on to the past, where the Buick LeSabre was plummeting into the future. But with all of that being said, let's get on to my final thoughts. What do I think driving a 1987 Oldsmobile, deep breath, Delta 88 Royal Brougham? Long name, but a great car. Well, I have to say that the driving has been very enjoyable. What's interesting to me is this suspension package. The FE3 doesn't really make sense to me. Now, the FE3 package was available on other GM products too. I drove a Beretta with it. I even drove a Montana with it. Sometimes it makes sense. Like in the Beretta, yeah, it makes sense. You want that sportiness. But to me, Oldsmobile was a more luxury-oriented company, at least in its later years, and so the FE3 doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. But that's not to say this is a bad car at all. I've enjoyed my time with it. It's simple, it's relaxing. I don't have to yell over a screaming automobile, which can't always be said about 80s cars. This is something different. I love the digital dashboard so much. I love all of the little attention to detail in here too. The 88 badge, the little nucleus logo I pointed out, the Royal Brougham stamped or placed on the doors. It's all very cohesive, and to me, this Oldsmobile really stands out. This is its own product. I can see it having its own market as well, and that can't really be said about the later Oldsmobiles. I do love the Alero, and I love the Aurora, and I love the Intrigue, and I love all of the Oldsmobiles that I've driven. I genuinely do. But for a lot of them, they don't really have this key demographic. Take a look at the Alero. Well, why wouldn't I just buy a Pontiac Grand Prix in that era? It's gonna feel the same. Well, to me, at least from where I'm sitting, the Delta 88 was something unique and special. And it couldn't quite be replicated perfectly in another GM product. And so that is why I was so excited to drive the Delta 88 Royal Brougham here today. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Huge thank you to Steven for letting me take out his Oldsmobile. I can't say the name again. Steven's been absolutely wonderful to work with. We've known each other for a while, but I was so glad to actually come out here to New Jersey and finally meet him in person, put a face to the name, and drive some of his awesome cars. Steven, you're one of the best. I appreciate everything that you do, and I look forward to working together again in the future. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to rate the video, comment on the video, and subscribe if you really liked it. Take care, guys.